Georgie. Hmm. I have a few thoughts, man. Like, well, how you guys like the lineup? It like it's nice, you know. Could be better, but for the situation, circumstances that I already messed up my lineup myself, so I'm technically at fault. But we back, and probably the next time we back again, we back even better. But whatever. Um, talking about the street nigga mentality, man, because it's something that is plaguing our city, my city, in an interesting way. But it's not just my city; it's everybody's cities. Like the street nigga mentality is the whole contrast of what the black fight's about. But let's get into, I guess, like the points I'm gonna bring up today, or some important things that might help us tap into what the street nigga mentality actually is. What what is it fostered from? You know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't technically raised in the streets, but I was, you know. So I guess sometimes like I like to deny it because my specific address might have been at certain places at certain times of my life growing up, but it's more about your surrounding and your circle, the people you're interacting with, and how you're moving day to day. That creates a barrier for you, right? And you got to break through those barriers. You got to take time, understand what your circumstances, your surrounding, and be like, you know what, I want to get past it. So why are we finding that generally the story for folks who come from the streets is the same story like the previous generation? You know, certain things are exacerbated, if anything, but it's always it's always like this revolving door situation, right? You're trying to leave, but you just find yourself back where you started. Um, life is cyclic. We have to know that first. Like seasons, right? You know, every once in a while you're gonna see snow drop in the same place where there was grass growing. That's life. But how are you supposed to move with that energy, right? Now, this is a funny thing. Like here in Toronto, like most street guys, they say they don't believe in horoscopes. Horoscopes is nonsense. It's BS. But like most of the street girls, street chicks, they actually like they're on horoscopes. They're gonna ask you what's your sign or what your birthday is and figure out your sign. But generally, girls are on horoscopes. Horoscopes has always been presented as like a feminine thing. But why? Let's think about this for a second, right? Let's get into some intellectuals for a little second. Horoscopes is the study of the stars or the skies, right? Um, Understanding the positioning of stars and what that could mean, because these are supposed to be bodies that hold mass, hold weight, and their gravitational pull, according to this is the theory, right? This is the theology behind it. Your gravitational pull affects our world in the slightest and the largest, but the proof is supposed to be, right? This is the proof. This is why it's supposed to work. Is if the moon, right, can actually move our oceans. They're saying the moon is the reason why the tides go up and down, right? I'm just gonna say they because I'm not the type to say John Lucas Mark in 1986 discovered the connection between the lunar. No, multiple civilizations have figured out the same shit, right? So I'm just gonna say they at all times. And you can go figure out who the they are any point in time, but you get the point, so we can just keep going. But they say that the moon Moon's rotation, movement in the skies, is what shifts our oceans. Right? The world is mostly water, so the moon affects the world. Right? Goes without saying. But our bodies, right? Our bodies are made up of water. Well, technically, H2O, we drink H2O, we get it through fruits, whatever things we consume, and then our body turns it into H3O, right? Technically, it transfers into like a gel formed water. It's basically water with nutrients that turns it into like a jello. So that's what we have. We literally have water in us, right? Everyone knows it. Like you're like 80% water, they always say. So if the moon affects the oceans, right? The moon shifts, moves depending on whatever's going on. The full moon, half moon, whatever, quarter moon. The oceans move, the tides move. We have celebrations, yearly celebrations. Ramadan, if you're Muslim, it's based off of the lunar cycle. It starts or ends based on like the lunar cycle starting or beginning or something like that, right? A lot of um, Christian holidays. Christmas is around solstice, and you know, whatever. You guys know Passover, but there's a bunch, like basically all religions use a lot of astrology and horoscopes technically to predict and to make claims about things. This is fact. So it's like you don't want to believe in horoscopes at school, but you have to acknowledge that whatever you believe in, even if it's just strictly science, still uses the stars. Every civilization looks up, says, "Whoa, what's going on up there?" Studies it over, I guess, a few hundred years. The study of it, they figure out patterns and correlations. Over 1,000 years, those patterns, correlations turn into culture and traditions. And who knows how long we've really been on this planet, fam? They're saying 2,000 years, since Christ. And prior to that, only whatever 10,000 years of being human, and prior to that, we were other forms. But there's other theories too, man. Anyways, let's get back to the point. Street man's gonna say, "Nah, bro, I don't move with horoscopes." You are saying that, but why are you stuck in a cyclic pattern, right? Like, and in the worst ways, right? Like, you have to think about what it means to be stuck in the streets, to be stuck in. It's like you get up, you get some money, you're about to do something happens, now you can't do what you were supposed to do, right? And now your mentality has to shift and be focused on what was happening versus the energy of what you were going towards. And by shifting, you might fix whatever that situation is, but you now have let go of the energy you were on. So now when you try and shift back, probably you can't. The situation has changed, whatever, and you're left to start again. You have to start and create that whole energy of, I was going in that direction. You can't go in that direction again. You have to start your engine again. So you'll hear the stories of majority of people coming from streets are saying they're stuck. Their life feels stuck. They gotta hustle it out. And then the stories is what a lot of us call hip hop at this point in time, right? A lot of the guys take their stories of being stuck and put it in a written form. And because everybody is living a cyclic life, everybody's life is cyclical, everybody can identify the cyclical nature or pattern being presented in terms of that person's point of view. But because we've we basically said, nah, that cyclical nature is just street life. We've kind of created this cognitive dissonance where the fact that we can identify with the struggle, right? No matter where you are on the planet, anywhere in the world, you are identifying with the struggle to the point we have all these subcultures of hip hop, but no one's saying, well, I'm street too. No, you're not gonna say you're part of the street life because you don't see the cyclical nature of what you're going through as being stuck at the bottom. And this is the thing too. Even the streets have grown and evolved. They're not the same. Like the ghettos aren't the same like they were in the past. Folks in the streets got phones. They got technology. They got internet. It's not like the streets is just as broken and down as the streets in the 90s, the streets in the 80s. Like when my grandpa came to this country, the streets that my uncles, that's not the same streets. Like they were getting, like, you know, dealing with knives. Well, you not say man's got shot too, but it's like it's a different energy. It was a different respect. It was different levels. Well, obviously things go in cycles and it returns. So, anyways, back to the point of like not believing in horoscopes. Okay, so you don't believe in horoscopes because you don't have to believe in anything. Like I'm not telling you to believe in horoscopes. I just draw from wisdom. Like I just love wisdom. I just love a pattern. That means like because you're gonna go and invest in stocks. You're gonna believe in the pattern, right? You're gonna believe in crypto. You're gonna believe in the patterns. So there's always some belief system in something that you're doing. So I'm not telling you to believe in horoscopes, but the facts of the patterns are there, right? So a lot of people who are born around the same time have a lot of similar attributes about themselves that others notice. And certain people who are so deep into it, they'll start calling out when you were born, just off of how you're behaving around them. They say, "Were you born around this time?" And you're gonna be like, "Yeah." Other people are just in it for the joke of it, so they're not really delved in to understand the real science behind how you can, pick out people's algorithm through the stars. Because that's really all it is, algorithm. We're just talking about like you started at this point and you're human, so you have a natural algorithm of where you're gonna be based on your DNA. Just like a dog has their algorithm, and we've been able to figure out a dog's algorithm to the point where you have people who are hired to train dogs because they understand the algorithm of dogs so easily and naturally. It's second nature for them to just get your random dog, you from wherever you got it. They'll teach your dog to sit, stand, bark, whatever, all these great things because they understand the algorithm. There's other people who understand the algorithm of the stars, and they take the time to see how it plays out in life. They studied under other people who took the time to do the same, and however far back that culture of studying the stars goes in those societies. I'm not getting into the politics of which society and which. That's like getting into the politics of what church you should go to or what school you should study under for science. No, I'm not talking about the people, right? I'm just talking about the theology, because the theology is what we're all attacking. Even when you get into your little niche corners or your little subcultures in your little groups, it's still the overall theology. That's why you guys are even standing there or sitting there to have an agreement or disagreement in contrast or opposition to someone else agreeing or disagreeing with you. So the whole point is, mans are stuck in the streets and they keep seeing the cyclic nature of what they're doing without seeing what that energy is supposed to allow them to do. Okay, so like if you know you're going in a circle, right? Like let's say you're trying to get out of a ditch, and the ditch is a circle, and all you have the ability to do is like walk around in a circle. Well, you would technically, right? Because you can't just stop and start climbing because you have to keep going in a circle. That's the nature of what you can do. But if you understand physics, the faster you go in a circle, it could actually create energy like a propeller, which creates lift. And next thing you know, you're rising. And you're not just going in a circle, you're going more in a spiral, an upward spiral. And that's actually the true nature of life. Like they say, people want to go from here to here and they realize they have to do all this. No, you're not doing all this to get from this point to this point. You're doing this. That's what you're doing. That's that's life, fam. There's people who have the whatever the number, that special sign number thing that looks like a shell spinning into itself or whatever is supposed to be the, I don't remember what it's called. I don't care about that. I'm just saying, like, there's too many proofs and so many different theologies that show you that life is cyclic. That when you get to that point where you're like, damn, I'm gonna have to change focus again because that situation, that's supposed to be you figuring out the code break in your own algorithm. That's supposed to be where retrospection, introspection at that moment, but retrospection from previous times when you're at that exact crossroads, where you're at that exact stoplight, and you always go left instead of going right. In that circumstance, left is wrong because it's just bringing you back in a circle, right? But right would be speeding up the process. Right is just saying, you know what? Instead of doing the long way of going back in a circle, let's go back in a circle faster. I already know that that's gonna flop because that brings me nowhere anyways. So this time I'm gonna go for what I need to go for. Or you know what? I keep going for what I need to go for, ignoring the situation. So this time I'm gonna, because who knows what your exact scenario is. But at that crossroad, you always make that same mistake. At that situation with people, you always turn up and get angry. Or at that situation, you always forget about your kids and go get drunk. Or you dive back into addiction. Or you get loose on the job and lose your job. There's always that thing you do at that moment when it's really supposed to be go time, where your breakthrough was, you know, if you're that religious guy, where your breakthrough from God was coming, and then you do something, you mess it up. So that's really what the street mentality is, right? It's not really understanding the wisdom that's being presented, and all these other cultures, they're tapping into it. They come in our midst. They travel as immigrants, come here with their cultures that teach them how to use the cyclic energy and to move. You know what I mean? Here's another thing though, because the girls get it, right? Like I was telling you guys, like the street girls here, they get it. They're tapping into the horoscopes. If you try and talk to them, they're gonna ask you when were you born, and they're gonna tell you, oh, that's why you act like that. Not all of them, but like a good majority of them, right? So it's whatever. But then, man, them like, you guys follow what the girls say. Like like this, when the streets is talking, it's not really like the man them is talking. You have to understand, man them is close knit. Like like not blaming this on the girls, but girls gossip, bro. Girls love to gossip, and sometimes they're not gossiping about the main piece of information. They're gossiping about something connected to it that you know has to do with them. That's personal to them. That is how they feel in that moment, and they're just sharing that to maybe someone else who could be related to another circle or connected to another. You know what I mean? This high school table cliques and the different lunch tables. This high school energy. You know what I'm saying? And they're having their gossip moment with someone. Now that news is going to a whole different table just because the information they thought they were sharing wasn't the pertinent one, right? Like they say, yo, I went over to Billy's and he wasn't even there. Like I wasted my whole day going there. Meanwhile, the pertinent information is that you even know Billy. You know what I mean? And now it's going around. Yo, I didn't even know Billy knew her. You know what I'm saying? All you're sharing is that, yo, you went all the way to somewhere and it was a waste of your time, but you accidentally shared the place you were going because you're just telling so. And that's the crazy thing about it, because everyone in the streets so hungry for information, the information that could change something, that could make that crossroad not be so much of a crossroad, that they fall into the same trap, bro. I've done it too. That's what I'm saying. Like I could talk about this from an introspective, like a retrospective, because it's not really introspection at this point for me, but it's like a retrospective, looking back in moments, looking back on stories, people's lives, and then some of the stuff that's happening right now. Right, Young Thug is in the bin. He was my favorite artist for a hot minute. I actually got a chance to meet him. And he's in the bin right now for street shit. And who knows, could be fully innocent. But because his brand and everything that he's made himself out to be, there can't really be a public outcry. You know, a RICO case means the feds been watching you for a hot minute and they know 100% in a sense that you're guilty. So now they're just coming in to, clean up. But all that to say, there's RICO situations and situations that might not involve the police but have been damaging the same to our community all the time. And that's why I really wanted to just come and just draw some lines, speaking on some street mentality and the street mentality of a nigga specifically, right? The nigga street mentality. Because street mentality in of itself, everyone can identify. But the nigga part of it is the dangerous element right now. Because that's what's keeping my community from growing. See, once you claim to be a street nigga, you're claiming to be a god among men. You're claiming to be invincible. You're claiming to know and to be able to move with the energy of the streets. Right? And that's why I was like, most street mans don't even agree with horoscopes, but the women is what make the streets worth it in the first place. Like half of the mans won't even stay if there wasn't a shoddy in the streets that they could hold it down for. Or some shoddy they could link with after all the things they're doing. There would be no point. The mans would just straight off themselves. So, you know what I mean? You're half of the time it's a beef over as a girl or a guy, a girl cheats or a guy, you know what I mean? Like the situations that happen, the gossip travels, all kinds of scenarios come from it. So all I'm saying is like, it's time for us to wake up to what the actual strings are that are pulling us. Not to say that horoscopes are the strings, the stars are the strings, but like if there's patterns to be understood, how people behave, how you behave. You know what I'm saying? If you're not even taking the time to say, well, I don't know myself from nowhere. I just know I get angry and I do this and I do that, but I don't know why. I don't understand. Take a second and read your birth chart. Nothing wrong with that. Like to go and read your birth chart, nothing wrong with it, man. Like see what someone else's opinion of your behavior. Maybe they're wrong, maybe they're right, maybe they're in between. But it's good. Like we need therapy. We need therapy first. Like Kendrick dropped this album, and the whole thing is about healing. But before you can heal, you need to be therapeutic. You gotta release the toxins that are inside. You gotta rebuild the muscles that were weak. There's a bunch of things you have to do. So if you're not doing that kind of work, you can't heal. You're not gonna heal. Or you're gonna heal with horrible scars and damaged tissue and elements that aren't even supposed to be within you are gonna heal within you and fuse with you and stuff. And toxicity is gonna heal with you, and you're not technically healed. So we gotta take time to detox, right? And I love it. I love, because I was just telling my cuz, I love that I seen Mustafa and all the man on the Juno stage. You know what I'm saying? Like I have nothing real negative to say about it, even though folks do. I see in the comments, folks do. They have things negative to say about that moment, what that means. But visually, it's a positive thing. Things can, like nothing's perfect. Nobody's perfect. So obviously you can look at what's going on stage and be like, well, he's wearing a bulletproof vest. What is he, like 50 trying to, but you're gonna miss the symbolism. The bulletproof vest says, poet. And then he has pictures with the bulletproof vest with flowers in it. So clearly there's a deeper symbolism, whether it means all the dead friends he's lost, all the friends he's lost to gun violence. And if they were wearing a bulletproof vest, maybe they would be alive. But the point is, his message in his songs aren't like all the friends who are behind him. But if he wasn't there, all the guys behind him would just still be doing what they're doing. Yeah, they're gonna go back home and still make a whatever song, but that moment is beautiful because it shows me at least Canada is willing to understand that its role will be to reintroduce and to shine as us, our people, the conscious fight, not the street fight. You know what I'm saying? Like the street element is there because we all are going through cyclical patterns. You know what I'm saying? So you get yourself lost in the sauce, and essentially you can get a little street, as someone would say, or ghetto, or not keeping in consciousness in your higher form. But even that is not supposed to be eternal. You're not supposed to eternally be in your highest form. You're supposed to go through up and down through the chakras, like a waveform going up and down. Like you're supposed to embrace the lows with the highs. So my issue is how we've kind of categorized it, branded it, and made it street mentality. And then like from when if you're black now and you're tapping into it, and maybe you're not perfect with how you're tapping into it, they're gonna call you a nigga. They're gonna call you a nigga anyways, but you're gonna have to embrace the negative connotation of nigga versus niggas, or the NG roots, or whatever the case may be. All that to say, cause I'm trying to wrap this up, at least for part one, is horoscopes is a major thing. The gal them are on it. That's why a lot of the girls from the streets are leaving, becoming the most educated sets of people on the planet. Like, black women are going for it. Especially black women from the hood. They're going for it, getting their education. So the man them though, we're not really tapping into the cyclic, so there's not a lot of male leadership. So it's like as soon as a girl goes to school, she's outshining you, bro. No college university student is outshining me, fam. How could someone who study in a classroom outshine you, who grew up hard knocks? See, the problem is these girls also grew up hard knocks, but they're doing the education, they're doing the knowledge. Y'all sitting down and you're not really doing the knowledge. Y'all just getting stuck on some specific theology and going down rabbit holes. That's what most of the street mans do. Street mans just get stuck on new theology and they go down the rabbit hole. Instead of checking out the rabbit hole, making sure that rabbit hole is secure and set on its foundations. And then these girls were taking all these classes and learning how to do due diligence and learning how to fact check and all that stuff. Come and see you guys on your whatever education you think you're on, and you can slash it and cut it down because you guys ain't really been doing the education. It's sad. Some of you guys do. I'm not gonna say that none of the men them do. A lot of you guys do. But for the general narrative that's being presented and the examples, and for those examples, and if you pick at the strings, that's what's happening. Man, they're not doing the education. They're not knowledgeable on the very topics that you need to be knowledgeable on to really combat the system. And the system is gonna be the black hood chick who's educated by the white man coming and telling you that woo what you're doing is wrong, or woo what you're doing is dumb. Because you're probably moving dumb and you're probably moving wrong. If you took the time and actually did your own education, studied up, use the internet, use the libraries, use the rec centers, and position yourself to be a leader, then they come back with their skills and they become an asset. They come back with their diplomas and they become an asset. They come back with their know-how and their connections to the white man, and they become an asset. And because you're already certified, they have to bow. But now you're educated and certified. But you guys ain't doing the education. They're more inclined to bow to me. Not a actually certy guy, but at least been around you guys, where they're like, maybe he is certy. He's been around so many certy guys, maybe he's certy. I'm not certy. I'm not coming here telling you guys I'm certy, but I'm a man. I am a man. I'm still just straight balls and dick, right? It's real out here. So I'm in the game with you guys because everybody's going through cyclical. And I think it's time for me, you know what I mean? Because I've been waiting for the streets to wake up and be like, yo, where's the leadership? Where's the energy? I'm not saying there's none. But it's time for me to start throwing my cards on the table of why there's a better way for our community through street mentality, but through a reformed way, through a way that actually keeps us alive. You know what I mean? Conflict resolution on a next tier. Like, why would you want to take all your time, hustled your years, leave from Jane and Finch, and move to Shelburne, but Shelburne becomes a hood? Just like a lot of, the older generation left from Jane and Finch and Rexdale, moved to Brampton. And then man's are still getting dealt with in Brampton. Life's cyclical, right? So you have to understand what's really happening so that you can really make moves towards the enlightening of all our, you know what I mean? Like, if everybody raises up at the same time, because we all know what's going on, then the lowest common denominator also goes up too. And that's all I'm trying to say. Everyone's trying to be like, yo, pride this, yo, ego that. And the meme generation ain't making it easier. But I'm going to wrap it up here because I think we at least were able to define ethically what the street nigga mentality is, what this nigga street mentality, what this mentality of the street nigga, the mentality of the niggas on the street, what it kind of is, at least from my gap perspective. And if you have any thoughts, share them. Let me see, and I'll come back for a part 2 off of some of these. I'm on meds it, and then I'll come back on a part 2. So if you have thoughts, share it, and hopefully in that time I can meds it with it. All right, guys, you already know. Peace.